You're tuned in to Around the Lens, the internet's only live streaming roundtable discussion podcast, featuring Zach Roberts, Ron Hamilton, Travis Keys, and your host, David J. Murphy. Hello and welcome to episode 170 of Around the Lens. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Travis Keys. Hello, Travis.
What's up, guys? How you doing today?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
Fantastic. Been busy and having a lot of fun. Yourself?
Same here. Getting ready to sell a house and also did taxes today. That was a pleasure.
Got that right. Did it hurt?
No, actually, I got the money the government took from me back, most of it, or a good portion of it, I think. Nice. How about you? How was your tax day?
It was. Go ahead.
Sorry.
How was your tax day? Go with it.
It was, as a freelancer, it's rough. So it always hurts on tax day.
Let's hold that thought. I do want to talk about that. Let's introduce our guest this week, Johnny Milano. Johnny, tell the audience about yourself.
I am a 30-year-old photographer. I'm based out of New York, Long Island. I've been shooting professionally for about 7 years now. I got my bachelor's in political science, and then after that I went to the International Center of Photography in Midtown Manhattan for the one-year certificate program for their documentary and photojournalism program, and started working at the completion of that, freelancing for various
What year did you finish there?
I finished ICP in 2012.
I went there too.
Wow. What year did you?
GS program. I finished about 5 years ago. Yep.
That's amazing. Wow. What a coincidence. I always run into ICP's alumni students all over the place.
Their documentary and journalism program is unbelievable.
It really is. It was amazing. For me, it was the place where I needed to go to learn how to be the documentary photographer that I needed to be. So it really helped.
Seeming they came from no documentary or humble beginnings at all.
Yeah.
Travis, if I can have you move slightly to your right. Okay, great, perfect. Just trying to frame you right. That photographer can't stop. Well, that's awesome. And not only do you all, both of you, have a connection. Obviously, Johnny and I, we have a connection because I lived on Long Island for about 3.5 years. We mentioned Spionk was a stomping ground for both of us. And I'm sure you're familiar with the 106 Rescue Wing.
Yes.
West Hampton Beach. Okay,
yep.
Great. I worked there during
I
that
was
time.
that.
Did you ever do any photo shoots with them or go out and cover any of the things that they were doing?
A little bit. So during Hurricane Sandy, they were doing some stuff out there, and then most recently they were last year I did a lot of work with the hurricanes, and prior to going down for the hurricanes, they were kind of shipping out supplies and needed medical assistance and things like that. So I did a couple assignments out there for them.
Nice. Yeah, it's an awesome group of guys. Had a great time over there. I know still a few folks who are still working over there. Did you cover any of the funeral activity that happened recently when they lost a couple folks a few years ago?
No, I didn't cover any of those. I did hear about there was at least one last year, right? And then maybe one the year before?
There was a helicopter crash that I think cost the lives of, 4 of the members.
Yeah.
So it was one of the more deadly
I think he was a Smithtown firefighter
accidents.
as well.
Yeah. So pretty devastating for the wing, and I knew a few of the guys. Didn't know them as well as I would have liked to have had, but really sucks for them out there because the last death I can remember came from the perfect storm. I'm sure there may have been other ones beside that, but that's the one that's most memorable because you tell people or you ask people, do you know where West Hampton Beach is? And they're like, no, never heard of it. You know what the 106 is? No. You ever watch The Perfect Storm? Yeah, I watched that. Okay, well, the military in that are the 106 Rescue Wing. So, awesome mission. Was glad to have been a part of it for as long as I was. And, good to know another Long Island Indian. So you're from Long Island originally?
Yeah, born and raised.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm still out here. Yeah.
What is up with the townie culture in Long Island? Because I tell you, as an out-of-towner, as a transplant, it was nearly impossible to make any friends or meet anybody out there because everybody knows everybody and they don't want anybody else.
It's very cliquey. I will totally admit that it is incredibly cliquey, and it it's so strict. It varies so greatly from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, there's running jokes between the North Shore and the South Shore.
Right.
You know, it's just
And
it's
the
inescapable.
Nassau and Suffolk counties.
Suffolk, yeah. It's pretty wild, but it's just like navigating every social circle every time you enter.
Yeah. Well, I like my time in Long Island. I like going out to the Montauk Point and then the wineries and that place, that one bar that was only open on Sunday, like Sunday afternoon from like 4 to 8. What's the name of that bar?
I actually don't know.
All right.
You know that one. That one. You know.
I don't know.
It's a very popular bar. All the folks who are partying in the Hamptons, they hit it before they get home on Sunday. It's weird because it's like a day bar, you know. Like you go there again, it's like from like 2 to 4, 2 to 6, or something crazy like that. If I think of it, I'll let you know. Then I'll tell it to you. Then you'll be like, oh yeah, that place.
Oh, yeah. I spend every Sunday there.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, glad to have you on. We can talk about Long Island all night, but I think there's some other things we should talk about. First and foremost, Johnny, let's talk about your photograph that was featured here on the CNN's Top 100. I'm going to pull it up for our viewing audience. This is the photograph that you shot. It's obviously from the home of Russell King, and his nephew LeBron Lackey remains standing after Hurricane Michael devastated their neighborhood in Mexico Beach, Florida. Michael was the strongest storm to make landfall in the continental United States since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. The Category 4 hurricane slammed into Florida with maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. So, obviously, a very striking image here. Obviously, just this one lone standing structure. Obviously, there are other standing structures, but this one was just it's so marked for the fact that it's pretty much untouched. At least from the looks of it. Obviously, there's probably still some damage to it, but from this picture and this vantage point, and compared to everything else around it, this thing got lucky. So talk to us a little bit about this photograph and kind of the story behind it.
Sure. So this was in Mexico Beach, Florida, and it took me maybe 2 days just to logistically be able to enter the area. At first, there was just so much debris that you couldn't even physically get through because there was only one road in and one road out. So it took me 2 days to get there, and then once I got there, we started just it was a couple of days after the storm, so while we were also there to document and bear witness to the atrocities and the destruction and everything like that, the story was kind of shifting a little more complex. You always want to go to another level, especially after natural disasters like that. So we heard reports that there was one house on a block that was the only house left standing on the entire block, and we managed to contact the owner. He came down from, I think he was in Alabama for the storm, and he was coming down to see his house, and he gave us a tour, and like I said, it was in remarkable condition. I mean, even from the picture, it doesn't even look dirty.
Yeah.
Right?
Looks like the storm probably cleaned it for him, Probably cleaned the siding and everything.
And, I mean, the story he was telling about just the concept of what he had for this property, because he bought the lot, and then he actually built the house from scratch, and he built it, to withstand winds of 250 miles an hour, just in anticipation for the next big storm. I mean, I guess he didn't realize it would come so soon, but I mean, he's got at least 25 feet of steel piping that goes right to the ground.
Yeah.
And then, it was just really remarkable. I mean, comparatively speaking, with the rest of Mexico Beach.
Yeah. I bet his neighbors were coming to him and be like, "So, how did you build that house again?
Yeah.
Who was your contractor?"
Exactly. He didn't offer the dollar figure, but I'm sure it's.
Well, I mean, obviously, whatever it was, it paid off because he's not having to go through insurance or if even if he got insurance, who knows? Sometimes when you build your houses so close to the ocean and in those prone areas, I don't know what the insurance situation is, but I know you had a lot of people who just build their houses right on the edge of the beach, and then they get washed away, and then insurance pays for them to get a new house, and it's just so. But no, he did good there. So obviously you commissioned a helicopter and got this aerial shot from a helicopter, right? You didn't just fly a drone up in the air.
No, I did actually have a drone, of course.
Yeah. Everybody has a drone. That's why I'm not just kidding.
I left my helicopter checkbook at home. That's the one bank account where I just rent out all the
the agency hiring you to do this didn't commission for a...
No. So
yeah,
I
taking him 2 days to get there if he had hell.
Yeah,
right.
Oh man, that would have been nice.
What drone did you use for this?
So I have a DJI Mavic Pro. I have
Yep.
the first one, not the updated one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for this kind of stuff, it's really tough to beat.
Yeah.
It folds up like the size of a water bottle.
Yeah.
You can bring it really anywhere.
Yeah. There's no excuse not to have it on you at like all times. As part of your kit. Especially, I mean, it's indispensable as like a lens nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth it to bring it everywhere. But yeah, so once I got there, I had time to set up the drone and everything. Especially in areas like this, you always want to be wary and careful of the incoming assistance helicopters and bringing aid and everything like that, or politicians and stuff like that. So you have to be careful, where you're flying. But yeah, it flew, and it was just a totally different view once you got up, even 20, 30, 50 feet.
I was wondering what that wind noise was. I was like, where's that wind noise coming from? Of course, it's Ron
Did
Hamilton.
I hide it? I put it under my lapel.
Oh, Ron.
Sorry, I'm calling from the beach today.
I can see
As
that.
is contractually obligated. If you live in Hawaii, you got to call in from the beach at least once a month, and this is that show. So I'll mute my mic here in the meantime until something important comes up.
Just keep it muted until the end of the show, okay, Ron? Just kidding. All right, well, Ron's joining us from beautiful Hawaii, as is the usual. So nice to have that backdrop there. Not a fake backdrop.
Yeah.
He's actually along the water. So if you want to know, if you want to feel like you're in Hawaii, just look at Ron.
I feel it already.
There you go. I feel it in my bones.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah. So you flew your drone up. You got this shot. You got your. Obviously, this was one shot of many that you shot. Looking at, I'm sure you went down there and shot for a couple days, the hurricane aftermath, right? Like, how long were you down there for?
Total, I mean, it wasn't just one neighborhood or one city, but total, I was there for just about 2 weeks, 14 days.
Now, did you do this? Obviously, you're being a freelancer. Did you just go on your own because you wanted to cover it, or was somebody backing you, or did you just kind of? How did that work?
So in 2017, I went down to Florida and ended up covering Hurricane Irma. And then the reason I was going down to Florida was not for the hurricane, actually. Part of my personal projects, I've been covering and documenting the KKK and other white nationalist groups in the country for about 6 years or so, ever since I was in school, actually.
Wow.
And I was going down there because Richard Spencer was supposed to have a rally at one of the universities there in Florida, which ended up being canceled because of the hurricane, but I was flying in anyway. And then once I told the New York Times, who I freelance here in New York for as well, that I was heading down there to Florida if they needed hurricane coverage, they kind of signed me up. And then I was there for, again, maybe 10, 12 days, something like that. And then come next season, 2018, I thought I produced relatively strong work, and I think they appreciated the work I produced as well. So I kind of volunteered myself, come June, late May, if you guys need anybody down for hurricane duty or something like that, I'll be available. Mm-hmm. And so they called me down for Hurricane Michael, and then Florence, and then Michael, rather.
Wow. Were you surprised that of everything you shot out of the 14 days you were down there, the one shot you shot with the drone would be the one that's featured everywhere?
No,
attention. I
had no idea. It's kind of hard for me to just grasp that, I think, in the moment, just because there's so much else going on that I'm just everything's very fluid. But I mean, you never know which picture is gonna, make the rounds, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're always kind of surprised when you see that one happen.
Yeah. Kind of makes you think like, next time there's a disaster, I'm just going to go there, throw the drone up, get a few shots, call it a day.
Yeah,
why shoot anything on the ground,
Why
get the drone shots. Do all my photojournalism from the drone. I'll just control it from my remote. Get down low, get some nice...
They even have a portrait mode on the drone.
You can use it as a steady cam and shoot straight from your hands. It's all good.
They got a zoom on it now, so you can get some nice shallow depth of field. You get one of those big drones where you can swap out the lenses. Just throw a 7200 on there, get down.
Just throw
what else do you need, honestly?
But awesome. All right, great. Was it tough? I mean, obviously you've shot hurricanes before, but I mean, is it kind of tough to shoot a disaster and kind of seeing the anguish and despair and the death and destruction and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it doesn't really hit me until I'm back at either the hotel or, I mean, sometimes I would have to sleep in the car, and it's just kind of like you have a minute to sit down and process, everything from the past 72 hours. People lost their entire lives, their homes, everything, family members, pets, everything they've ever known, and it just kind of, once you start running through that gauntlet in your head, you kind of catch up to what you experienced, just as a third party.
Well, let me ask you this. So obviously, when you look at something like this, you can see there's destruction everywhere. Obviously, it was a devastating storm, and when you're down there, obviously you're kind of free form. You're kind of doing whatever you want to do. How do you decide what to cover? I mean, there's obviously destruction everywhere. Are you looking for people clearing out debris and cleaning up? Are you looking for, obviously you're trying to get those moments, right, with people and whatnot, but like how do you even know where to start in something like this?
I try and work on in stages. So, ideally you get there before the storm hits, and then that way you can hunker down and wherever you're at. And then after the storm, you can kind of focus. Okay, the first day, of course, it's important to document the destruction and property damage and things like that, and residual flooding and surge. And then as the days goes on, you kind of you want to work in other stages that cover different aspects of the storm as it has impacted the city and its residents. So I try and go from the destruction itself to maybe neighbors cleaning up or something like that. I try and look for the human aspect as people start to begin to come back to their homes,
right.
The reaction, and then the late stage cleanups, including debris removal and kind of restoring the utilities and things like that as the city starts to come back to life a little bit.
Has anybody ever accused you, or not you specifically, but just us as photojournalists in general, show up on these sites and call us, we're just trying to get that disaster porn or that destruction porn? Anybody ever accuse you or call you anything like that? Ever get that criticism?
Yeah, definitely. I try and avoid that from the get-go, because I try and always remind myself that I'm a person before I'm in every instance, right? And I think that's an important concept to realize. So I don't just automatically go up to people who just lost their house and start, photographing in their face. I really spend, a couple, sometimes I'll spend 45 minutes just talking to them, about what happened, what they experienced. And then only then will I ask, do you mind if I take a couple of pictures, or can you take me through a tour of your home, or, stuff like that. And I think that goes a long way with a lot of people, because it's a respect, you don't just want to run up to their face and start shooting away.
That's a good policy. Talk to them for 45 minutes. On minute 46, just whip out the camera and start shooting pictures, whether or not I like that. No, wait. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, you're going to want to get their sort of permission and whatnot, or at least, have them be okay with it. I mean, they're extremely vulnerable at this point. They may have lost everything. So it's nice to give them a little bit of common courtesy, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Great. What did it feel like to have your photograph featured on this list?
It was pretty surreal. I haven't really I don't really win anything major. I don't win a lot of competitions, but it's always nice to see an image that you spent a lot of time, resources, and logistics trying to create, kind of reach the rounds and have so many people just set their eyes on it. My editor at the Times, actually, as I was flying home, had told me that story had received the most clicks in the entire history that the Times has been online. So wow. That was for me, that was kind of groundbreaking, and I was kind of floored. It
would be nice if he had said the most clicks in human history. This is the most clicked on.
Can you get $1 for each click? What?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How much was it your cut on that clicks?
Yeah.
How much did you make off all those millions of
Maybe
clicks?
Maybe a .0001
Yeah. There you go. Well, I mean, obviously you went down there as a freelancer, so But I mean, was this like commission though? I mean, I know you explained it earlier, but I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, so it was definitely commission. They had sent me down there. I didn't really kind of pitch it a per diem kind of thing. It was more if you need a shooter down there. I think primarily because of my history as a stringer here in the metro area, it kind of set up the stage to just produce work for them every day down there.
But you being as a freelancer, obviously you own the copyright to this image, right?
Yes,
this is your image.
It's a shared copyright. They can license it out. I get a portion of the sales.
Okay, but can this be on agency? Is this on different?
No.
No. Okay. So the Times are the ones who basically can print it, or okay.
Yeah.
But you get obviously, so you get a portion of the sale. So essentially, they're the agency, the agent for your photograph. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm always interested in how different deals are made and whatnot, because obviously that's something people don't know really enough about in this freelance world. And it's speaking of making money, let's talk about taxes, and let's start with you, Ron. Ron, you're a regular old fashioned worker for a company, so you just did a W-2, right, for your taxes?
Right. With something like that, it's either it depends if it's if it's the company, it'll be a W-2. If it's other stuff, sometimes I get 1099s.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get paid, cash check charge.
Right.
And I run it through my own, but of course that all gets taxed as well. Here in Hawaii, we have no, that would be illegal, Dave. I would never do anything illegal.
No.
We have a lot of we have, of course, state tax here, federal tax here, income tax. We also have what's called a general excise tax. It's another tax that you have to pay 4.712%. And that's off the top. So that when you bill, let's say you bill $1,000, you also bill, or make it easy for make it $100. You also bill $4 and whatever I just said cents. So that plus there's also so when you pay your taxes, you have to pay your GE tax in accordance with your state and federal income tax.
All right, cool. All
Taxed on tax.
Yeah, I know, right? Did you get a good refund?
No, sir, I don't get refunds.
You don't get any? You didn't get any refund at all?
I usually pay every year. Usually I'm a taxpayer. I am a taxpayer, not a tax refund. Guys out there.
Well, all a refund is really just money that it's your money.
It's own money. That's right. I look at it like this: I give the government, the government gives me a free loan all year long, and I just pay them back with 0% interest at the end of the year.
There you go.
That's the way I do it.
That's indeed. All right. Well, let's mute you back, Ron, so we can talk to the other kids here without the hurricane that is, wherever you. Anyways, I am also just a regular old worker. I do the W-2, but I do have a little bit of freelance income. I do a little bit of stuff on the side, so I had to file my state taxes for Mississippi, and that included the 1099 miscellaneous for the money that I got doing freelance work. But obviously, you two guys you're both freelancers. So talk to me about how you all do your taxes. We'll start with you, Travis.
Well, certainly I established myself as an LLC in my own name, so I pay as a sole proprietor.
Getting those sweet deductions.
I tried. Well, yeah, the deductions and everything were a little different this year, where I ended up paying a little more than I expected. Go figure with the tax laws changing and stuff like that. It was kind of a little surprise, but sitting down with my accountant, who I've used for the last 4 years, it's wasn't as bad a pill to swallow this year as I thought it was going to be, but it was definitely twice as much as last year.
Do you find that you choose to have an accountant because it's your choice, or do you think you could do it by yourself? Because they have all this tax software nowadays. It's I don't know.
Yeah, the ones that they've lobbied that the IRS can't do it anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. There's just too many laws changing and too many things as a corporate entity and stuff like that. It's just it's not. It's worth peace of mind that you have this audit-proof person that's going to go to court with you because they've prepared your taxes and stuff like that, instead of me just making a mistake and saying, "Oh, I didn't know," which IRS doesn't care if you don't know.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I was going to say, good thing you did the LLC and not the sole proprietorship, because that protects you. And did you? Because I know the other ones are like S corp and other things like that. Did you think about those, or was again the LLC the best option?
LLC for me was the best option at this time, and best for me filing. So I could keep it under my own name. So all the checks come in my name, and the corporation's under my name. Everything's under my name. So it all looks nice.
So then your LLC is named Travis Keys LLC, or how's that?
Travis W. Keys Photography.
Oh, okay, cool.
So checks can be made out strictly to Travis W. Keys, and it all works. Travis
nice.
Keys.
That's good. Because I set up I have a sole proprietor. I've had LLCs, but I do so little work. So I do freelancing so rarely that I just do sole propriety. And so I told this company, oh, my business is DJM Photo. And they made a check out to DJM Photo. And I was like, okay, well, I can't cash that. So I had to create a business account for DJM Photo at a bank. And that was just a bunch of hurdles to get through that, because I had to establish myself as a business. And it was just like, man, I just want to cash this check.
It's very easy. I file my business and personal is all one. So it's it's just one thing I file. I don't have to do multiple filings and stuff like that. So it just makes it convenient.
Yes, Ron.
I find that if clients give you if clients give you a check with the wrong name, what I always do, now I'm not saying any of you should do this, cross out whatever they wrote, put whatever you'd like to have there, and then just initial it yourself. Usually the bank, oh, good, it's initialed. Thank you very much. And here's your money, Mr. Hamilton.
Well, this was a printed check, so I don't know. I mean, for legitimate business, I figure I should just make myself legitimate and have a business account, just to kind of keep the money separated and all that stuff. So I've got my nice business account with, and if I do any more work under my business name, it's all set. How about you, Johnny? What was your tax situation like this year?
I am a sole proprietor. I am not a registered LLC, although it is something that I'm probably going to do pretty soon, just to cover myself in the future. The deductions, I definitely got hit with the deductions also. I didn't get it wasn't as fun for me this year either. I was probably close to double what I paid.
I found it. It's like going to the doctor. You're hoping that they're going to say it's just a pill or penicillin. Right. When you say it's going to be, we're going to have to go in for surgery. You're like, damn.
Basically, yeah. It was a little different for me this year. I got married in December, so that kind of changed things up a little bit.
Did you joint file?
Yes, we did. Because prior to that, actually, my father did my taxes, and he was great at it. Had everything down to the T, like mileage, equipment, everything, and it worked out really smoothly. But this year we weren't sure with the new tax law, and married, if it was going to be better to file married jointly or separately. So we wanted to go talk to an accountant. So we ended up doing jointly. And I missed one actual estimated tax last year, so I had to catch up on that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do they get you for that? They try and audit you and stuff?
No, I think the audits really come more from your varying expenses and income and things like that from year to year.
Yeah.
I haven't had the pleasure of that yet, but fingers crossed.
Well, now that we've spoken about it, if you don't knock on wood,
I know, yeah.
Now that you're married, there's a great tax trick that you should really take advantage of next year. It's called having children, because that will net you some big money right there, buddy. Let me tell you, that tax credit for children, if you have more than one child, even better. Just rack them, stack them, get as many as you can get. Open up a foster home, just pile them in. No, but yeah, obviously that's been a nice, again, we didn't have kids for the tax breaks, but it is nice to have that.
Absolutely.
Sole proprietorship. I
didn't get married for the health insurance, but it's nice to have that too, right?
Hey, there you go. Well, everybody has to have health insurance, and you have to check a little box when you do your taxes. Otherwise, you have to pay a fee, right?
Yeah. When I've been with my wife now for 7 years, and we were both on the ACA forever, and then she just finished nursing school last year, so she got a pretty solid job and good benefits, and it was time for me to come off of, Obamacare.
Oh, there you go. What line of work is your wife in, if you don't mind my asking?
She's a nurse. She works in the nursery. She did the NICU for a little while, but she's in the nursery now.
So you're getting medical, I guess, like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, something like that?
AtL.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our first topic this evening. Half an hour in. This was actually your idea, Ron, so I'm going to throw it over to you, and hopefully the wind doesn't drown you out too badly. But you had brought up this idea.
I had an idea. All right.
You had an idea the one time. So you want to talk about documenting classified work. So this is all kind of spurned from the fact that Julian Assange, right, was arrested. They got him out of the Ecuadorian embassy after 7 years of hanging out and chilling in there. And he was arrested, and now he's going to face justice for what he did. Or, some would say, was it justice? Did he do anything? Was he just expressing press freedom, all that stuff? So let's throw it over to you, Ron. What do you think about this topic, since you brought it up?
So Chelsea Manning calls me up, says, Ron Hamilton, I've got all these documents. Would you like to cover this? Yes, I would. Now, because I work for a television station, I give that to my TV station and say, guys, this is what I've got. They make the decision. So I'm kind of covered on that one. If they choose it, they choose it. I'm not a freelancer. That may be a different story if I was just out there in the world with the Ron Hamilton website, ronhamiltonnews.com website. That would make a different story maybe. I might think more carefully about whether or not I'm going to go be locked up for the rest of my life for exposing classified information.
Well, let's go down that line of thought. Let's say, you're Ron Hamilton, host of, InfoWars.
Right.
That's the show I would think you would do. And you're got this boatload of classified information and intel, but you're, obviously a American citizen, blue-blooded, red-blooded American citizen, apple pie and baseball. What do you do with all this classified data, especially if it has, military secrets, being prior military, all that stuff? What goes through your head?
Yeah. Well, again, same thing. I mean, we talk about Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. You publish. You got the stuff. You publish.
Okay.
If it's me, if it's on my own. However, like I said, if it's a scary situation, I might go down for this. Daniel Ellsberg worked for a newspaper. He was covered too. Well, somewhat he was covered. I would do that. I would only if I was covered. I'd be a really afraid guy, especially post 9/11, releasing classified information like that. I'd be really scared. I'd probably, as a coward, I'd probably say I probably wouldn't do it if I wasn't covered myself.
Yeah.
If I wasn't protected in some way, I'd be really afraid to do it.
So far, it's my understanding these aren't the charges he's being brought up on, though, and these are not the reasons why he's being.
Well, they say it's because of espionage.
Assisting breaking passwords and stuff like that, which is a totally different thing. When you're assisting the information, you're no longer just giving the
right,
information.
But the question is, what do you do if you're presented with classified information? Not would you break into a computer? That's a different question. The question is, if somebody comes up with you, hey, I've got classified information, would you publish?
Well, I mean, under the law and legally, unless you're under your right to do that as a journalist.
Right, you should, right, exactly right. But of course, when you do that, you open yourself up to things like, oh, well, you got that illegally. Whether you do or not, I don't know. I don't know how he got the information, if he was involved in that, or if Chelsea Manning did it without his assistance. I don't know the details. He says it was without that Chelsea Manning acted, or Bradley Manning at the time, acted independently.
There seems to be some proof otherwise, though.
Right, we'll see. Well, Chelsea isn't talking.
Yeah.
Chelsea says I'm not talking.
Yeah, there's usually little paper trails and little things and little codes and computers that see who accessed what, when, where. Yeah. So I mean that's a whole different. I agree with you. That if it's just based on him sharing information that he got from a source where he didn't actually ask that source to get it or break in, then he's under his full rights, and you would have your full rights to do that. But anything else, then that's crossing the line.
Right, and that's the question is, sure, it's under your rights, but given that exercising your rights may also still land you in jail, would you
Absolutely.
still do it?
Yeah.
So Travis, if you were given some classified headshots, you would publish them.
I probably took them. No, it's something you definitely have to weigh. I mean, and also you have to weigh absolutely all the evidence that's there. It's not like he's. It wasn't like he was sharing the Russian information that he got. It wasn't like he was sharing. He was sharing very specific things that were actually pointed to certain people. So as a journalist, you're supposed to not present one side and edit out and leak stuff that is all biased and stuff like that. That's just not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be, unbiased and present the whole picture, not what you want out, and certainly leaking it out and threatening to leak it out. That's just not. It goes against everything that a journalist should do, and I can't support something like that.
So again, what you're saying is Julian Assange is being charged with espionage because he assisted the other person in getting the information.
Yeah.
If he had just been given the information, it was just a clean transfer, he would have been fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Still would have pissed off everybody, but
absolutely.
Except for the people who praised him.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Johnny? You're given the opportunity to photograph, or you got some classified info. What do you do with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree that there is a good distinction about intent and and what a responsibility is as a journalist. I think for Assange, I think it's interesting to kind of see where he started in his role in publishing these documents at the beginning of WikiLeaks and compare it to 2016 and 2017. I'm curious to see if there's a different kind of change in direction in terms of mission statement, possibly. I don't know, but I think it is. I think that'll be the key issue as to whether you see him as a co-conspirator or you see him as a publisher, and those come with different responsibilities and consequences.
When the real key issue here is actually his cat is okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
I did see the people freaking out about that.
Well, considering how poorly they were treating his cat in the Ecuadorian embassy, it's probably best they got out of there. Hopefully, it went to a good home that will take care of it. Did you just unmuted? Ron, did you have something else you want to add?
God bless America.
Okay, great.
I am curious if this does set up a precedent in the future. I think this could definitely set up for potential abuses. I think it has the potential for it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like they said there's all these charges, right, about the rape and the other thing like that he was charged with, and was that were those legitimate charges? Were they again we can't speculate on that, but it's kind of coincidental that kind of stuff happened at the same time as he was hiding out in the Ecuadorian embassy. So if you're a conspiracy theorist and you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can and say one thing or another. But yeah, I mean, obviously...
one happened in Sweden that was unrelated to the U.S., and the only reason they didn't keep going after it was because he stayed in the embassy past the 5-year statute of limitations. So
yeah. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to our next topic. We're talking about the 2019 photo contest for the World Press Photo. So I'm going to bring up the web page here that we have linked on our show notes so you can kind of see what I see. And we'll just talk about some of the winners that came out and we give our thoughts on them. So I'm just going to go down here. Let's talk first about the main winning image. This is, of course, of the Honduran toddler, Yanela Sanchez. She's crying. Obviously, this was all over the place. It was featured on, I think, Time magazine with Donald Trump, trying to showcase sort of the whole border issues going on. What do you guys think of this? This is the main winner. Do you think this is it? This is the winning image? Do you think this should be the winning image? Are you in agreement with sort of the World Press Photo judges here?
Well, it's certainly one of the most topical of last year, and certainly one of the ones that was misused and interpreted for different ways and different means for different people. So it certainly had an effect in many different ways. So it's a pretty important photo in just that regard.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's deserved. There was just, let alone the how strong the image is. I think the controversy around and the timeliness of it, I think, is an important aspect of it. I mean, everybody was talking about this, and I think there was some controversy that the daughter was actually not separated from the mother, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, to me, I don't even know if that matters. I think it tells such a greater story beyond of what this specific instance does.
Yeah.
Even more so because there are so many anonymous people in here that these could be any person crossing over in the migrant caravan or wherever. So I think that's indicative of the entire kind of story about the policy itself.
Well, I mean, obviously what you said there, Travis, I think was important, whereas, images can be used by different entities to propel whatever agenda they want to propel, especially when, you're a freelancer and you're just throwing your imagery onto an agency. You don't get to control how people use your imagery. It gets sold to whoever wants to pay for it. Have either of you, or I guess we'll start with you, Johnny, have you seen any of your imagery used sort of in a way that you did not intend or you did not like, especially considering you shoot so much white supremacist stuff? I was looking at your website on that stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh. they really, they're like totally, you have a level of, integration there. It's like, that's they very much trust you with their, their
Yeah,
their
I've
access.
been doing that for like 6 years. So I started that in ICP. And yes, I have definitely had a good number of instances where my images have been misused. And actually, it's funny that you bring that up because more recently, like January, Der Spiegel was running a story about one of a civilian paramilitary group that patrols the Arizona border that I've done. I've been working on that project also for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so they were running a story. It was in time with the migrant caravan. So they had sent a reporter and a photographer into Mexico to spend however many days, weeks, or whatever, with the caravan there. And then they also simultaneously had a reporter in Arizona working with this group that I have been covering, supposedly. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't actually send any kind of photographer or videographer or anything to Arizona. They just sent the reporter. And so they just licensed a couple of my pictures that I had taken, and the latest image was from 2016. And then, so they sent me like the maquette, they sent me the PDF of a sample before it ran, like the night before. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know German, so I couldn't translate it right away, so I had to wait. And then I got a message from the organizer of that group. They're called the Arizona Border Recon, and his name's Tim. So Tim sent me a message, and he's kind of, very aggressively, and I guess rightfully so, in the article, he's like, did you send these pictures? Did you sell these pictures to Der Spiegel? They're saying that we're raping children and shooting migrants and transporting drugs and all this stuff. And granted, I've never seen anything like that while I've been out there. And I'm like, what? I mean, like, they sent me this article, but I don't read German, so I had to translate it. And he sent me the translation. And everything in it was so far-fetched to me that it ended up being suspicious to another colleague of this reporter. And I had never met this reporter before who worked in Arizona, so there was like a co-byline with another reporter as well. And this was the guy who contacted me after this whole kind of suspicion rose up. And apparently the reporter in Arizona was telling Der Spiegel that me and him were good friends. Meanwhile, I've never met this guy in my life, never spoke to him. Told his editors we were good friends, and then I had a hookup for him with this group in Arizona. And so that kind of said, I'm like, I've never spoken to this guy ever. He introduced himself to me via email. So long story short, he made up the entire article. Everything in it was false. My pictures were attached to it. I had to, I don't even know. I tried to go into kind of lockdown mode. I wasn't sure. I was considering talking to a lawyer because I wasn't sure exactly how to proceed like that. Because, in this business, your name is kind of the only currency that you have as a journalist and a documentary photographer. If your reputation, doesn't hold any water and people can't trust you, you'll die real quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still kind of dealing with that, but
no retraction, or they didn't say anything, or nothing at all.
No, they ran a retraction. It took them a while. They didn't want to believe it because this guy won CNN's Photojournalist of the Year over in Europe in 2014 or something like that. Really well-known name, did thousands of articles and worked for Der Spiegel for a number of years, and he was in line to be, a deputy photo editor. And it went all the way up, but they didn't really want to. Der Spiegel didn't really want to chase after it too much. They kind of had the rosy glasses for this guy. So they were kind of fighting the other reporter who really kind of spearheaded the investigation. I guess his name is Mirko. They really kind of stonewalled him a little bit to the point where they basically fired him. They sent him home. And then after Mirko started gaining more evidence and stuff, and it wasn't just this article with the border militia. Apparently, the writer, his name's Klaus, apparently he had fabricated an entire story with Colin Kaepernick's mom. which is such a high profile figure. It's really surprising to me and really disheartening that a story like that would even make it to print. You know, it ended up being that his lawyer said that this guy never spoke with Colin Kaepernick's mom, and everything in the whatever interview he has is completely fabricated. And it was a really big ordeal for Der Spiegel, and they're still dealing with it because they're one of the biggest magazines in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always, whenever these things happen, right, it's not just the one thing. It's just the one that got them caught. And they usually have an entire history. It's seen it again and again. There was like that one guy, Philip Glass, right? And then there was a video game journalist who recently got outed for, copying people's work. So I don't know why these people think in this day and age you can get away with that.
It's really remarkable.
This isn't the pre-internet era where you could get stuff printed and go through your entire career like who was that photographer we always like to lambast McCurry, right? It's like he grew up in an era where you didn't have internet and you couldn't just automatically zoom in on the pixels, right? And verify everything he's doing. So he had his full career. He did it. He gained his fame, his notoriety and stuff. And then after everything was said and done, it all came tumbling down. But he had already had his career. But nowadays,
it was all social media that brought him down. It was like he posted a picture that was a little different than the one that he actually released. He's like, oops, someone caught him.
It's like, I can get it. Like, pre-internet, you're going to get away with a lot of stuff. But post-internet, oh my gosh, you are just tempting. Because there are people out there whose sole mission in life is to find these type of things.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, go on Reddit, and it's like, all right, let's get the Reddit police on this.
Where's Waldo, and went on for bigger things.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to throw back to the World Press Photo website. You can all look at that. But again, photo story of the year again, talking about the migrant crisis and, of course, border being the continued topic. Here we got the migrants coming up north, and then other photos of the year. So I'm just skimming through these contemporary issues. Unfortunately, these don't have captions with them, so I'm just kind of going by the image here. But again, a lot of beautiful imagery here. As a contest, this is always the best sort of example of imagery that is not only captivating, beautiful, well shot, well lit, capturing the moment, but also having to deal with a very profound and important issue that affects the world. So it's like every single possible facet of everything that we do and exemplified in this. So, but my query would be, or my concern would be, again, with all the various controversies and whatnot, how many of these images are staged, misrepresented, photoshopped. I know they've cleaned up their act a lot, but again, it's tough to not think about that type of stuff. So again, going through here, it's funny, the photograph of President Donald Trump and Macron holding hands in the White House. That's cute. Just a shared moment there. Long-term project. So a lot of great work here. Was there any work here that you all saw that kind of stuck out to you that you thought was pretty noteworthy besides the ones we've already talked about? For any of the categories?
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a good number for me anyway. I know I remember when I saw Philip Montgomery's work on the opioid crisis when it went to print. I thought that was, for me, that was like next level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, compared to Noctaway stuff, who also covered that, it was just such a starkly different way to cover the story for me. And I really appreciated that. And I think I thought he deserved, maybe a higher prize than third, but that really stuck out for me. And that's definitely a story that I remember very vividly from last year.
Yeah. Some great sports shots here. I love this one by Terrell Groggins. It's a boxing match between two women. And he's just got some really good capture of that moment of the hit, the mouth jowls all reverberating off the shot. It's just pretty amazing stuff. I photographed boxing once. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but I was like shooting with a 500 millimeter from the edge. It was at Madison Square Garden, by the way, actually, and it was pretty cool, pretty awesome. But would love to have gotten down by the ring, but they wouldn't let me. So I had to deal with what I had. But anyways, a good selection of imagery here. we'll definitely have. I think Zach is going to do a little bit more of an in-depth deep dive into the winners here and kind of give his further thoughts on them. But definitely some great work, and we'll try and have some of these folks on as guests in the future. I would love to have John Moore on to talk about his imagery and how it was used. I think that'd be really great.
Sarah Blesner is a good friend of mine. She won the first prize in long-term projects. I think she'd be good to talk to.
It's actually what's omitting it as this list. ICP had three of them, people in this, and it's amazing that the school is pumping out such incredible talents, especially
really
in
is.
journalism, and it's year after year. And a lot of the people that I went to school with, and a lot of people that were my year and years before and after, you just keep seeing pop up in the industry. So I mean, it's really kind of impressive.
It really is. It's always nice to see that everybody kind of found their groove a little bit and is kind of carving out their own path. The progress is amazing.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that, man.
It was wrong when I was there. You're too perfect. What do you want to do? Make money? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So a lot of great work there. So you're gonna put a good word for us and get her on the show, right?
Yeah, sure. If you want, I'll reach out to her.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, I wanted to. We'll talk about this briefly. Just kind of since we have you on, we can talk. Get your kind of thoughts on this. But Zach brought up a pretty good topic to me, and we'll save it for a longer deep dive when he gets back on the show. But I'll just throw it over to you, Johnny. You've been doing this for a while. You said 6 years, right? Or
yeah. So coming up on 7. So
7 years.
Professionally, anyway, yeah.
So how often do you look back on your early work, and what do you think about it when you look back on it? Are you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I produced this? Or are you like, you know what, it wasn't that bad back then?
It varies for me. Usually I stumble upon older work accidentally if I'm doing like hard drive backups and stuff like that.
Right.
But for projects, I go through it pretty often. Like my White Nationalist project and the Border project and things that have taken up, a good portion of my career as a photographer so far. I always revisit them because I'm always trying to look at different edits, or if I go to a different, interview or portfolio review or something like that, I always try and see what it would look like differently in a, with a 20 picture spread. Because, for some of these projects, I have thousands of pictures, right? So I always try and, did I miss something? For the projects, I'm like, occasionally, like early on, it's so obvious the kind of photographer that I was, in school doing this project compared to now. If anything, just from the number of pictures that I come back with today compared to 6 years ago. But I think it is important to kind of go back and see your past history and growth as a photographer, even no matter how shitty it is. I mean, everybody's shitty at something that they end up being great at, right? I mean, well, maybe not everybody, but for the good majority of people. So I think it's important, no matter how cringeworthy it might be.
Yeah, I remember I was going through my work because I archive everything, especially digital work. Every single photograph I've ever taken since the first shot when I had my Canon digital I have on a hard drive somewhere, and I was going through a lot of my work that was pre-Facebook, so my time joining Facebook, and so I was uploading a lot of stuff that I never got to upload when it first happened because Facebook didn't exist. And so I remember, uploading a lot of stuff, and some of it's like, oh wow, it wasn't too bad. Other was like, But most of it was just kind of uploaded for the fun of it, like, oh, look at this fun thing we did. Hey, this friend of mine who I knew back then, wasn't this funny what we did? So
you always have to dive back into the archives because you never realize sometimes what you have when you have it. I remember I shot some stuff for NBC for their upfronts and stuff like that, and I was shooting some side stuff, some celebrity portraiture and stuff like that. And I'm going through, and I didn't even realize I shot Joan Rivers literally a month before she passed away.
Wow.
That was one of the final photos that, and I'm like, oh my god, I totally didn't realize I have this.
Well, who knows? You might have a Monica Lewinsky in there someday. With the Me Too movement and the president and everything going on, like, so. Got to keep them archived, especially if depending on what you're shooting. So
not getting easier when the cameras get
Nope.
my 42 megapixel Canon, it's a Sony R, my Fuji medium
my
format.
Sony has that too.
Yeah,
people are like, oh,
47
digital's
megapixel.
easier, right? It's easier. I'm like, well, I got like 20 hard drives that are sitting in a Pelican case, and
yeah, I built I think it was a 32 gigabyte or 20 something gigabyte RAID array. So that's sitting on my desk, and that holds like all my archives. But like it kind of worries me to have all my content in one place right there, because obviously something happens to that. But I have multiple copies, multiple backs up, and what I've done actually is copied my archives onto separate hard drives, and I put one in Florida, and I put one in Texas. So, you know, unless we go to nuclear war and they just hit all the major cities, but then again, my mom lives in a tiny little town, so I'm fine. The nuclear impact won't have any impact on her. Just maybe a little fallout, a little radiation, but otherwise it'll be fine. So that's the most important thing. But anyways, we're getting to the end of our show. I want to throw it out to you all to kind of talk about what you would like to share. Johnny, what would you like to highlight before we sign off with Anya? Let's just plug your website or anything you want to promote.
No, yeah. I mean, I love chatting with other photographers and other people in the industry. So if anybody ever wants to I love chatting about the theory about photography and the future of where the industry might go, and the limits and restraints that journalists have as ethical storytellers, and what that role might look like in the future. So I appreciate being on here. Thanks, David. This was awesome. I can't believe it's been an hour already.
I know, right? Time flies.
Yeah, really
I know people are always usually interested. What are you shooting on?
So I'm a bit of a mixed bag, a little bit. On mostly Nikons. I grew up on Nikons. I have a D5 and a D810, and I also shoot primarily the D810 is my first, and then I have a Sony A7R II that's my second. And my neck and back really appreciate the Sony most of the time. So,
well, if you really want to, care about your neck and back, switch over to Micro Four Thirds. That's the hip.
I've been hearing
the hip hotness with regard to camera systems.
Yep.
Get yourself
I have a friend at
Panasonic.
Pentax, and he's just like,
okay.
Well, I'm a Sony shooter myself, and I over the weekend I got to play with the new firmware upgrade on the A9 at a professional rugby event, and go shoot the eye autofocus and the fast tracking on that. And I got to tell you, I was blown away.
Yeah.
It is so fast and so accurate that there were times where I was looking one direction and I heard like something score, and I just spun it and hit the thing, and it hit right on. I mean, it's another level. I didn't think that they could hit something that fast. And
how's the battery life?
Those batteries are great. They'll just like Canon battery or something like that. They work fantastic. Yeah.
The A7R II has.
I changed one once. Yeah, I used to have the A7R II and those batteries. I used to carry a pocket full of those batteries. Yep. I carry one battery and I'm good for the day.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, as soon as Sony comes out with some Micro Four Thirds cameras, because that's where it's at. Forget the mirrorless. Forget the medium format. Forget the full frame. But speaking of mirrorless and all that, have you thought about any of the mirrorless cameras? Have you thought? I mean, obviously you're using the Sony, but like the Nikon mirrorless, I'm talking about.
I have the Nikon Z. Looks awesome, and I have a good friend that I shoot a lot of. So I started photography in general, shooting hardcore punk shows, and I have a friend that also grew up doing that, and he still does it, but he also works for Nikon. Nice. And he's been like pumping out all these like great content with the Z, and I'm like, I know you work for Nikon, and you got to tell me that this is great, but this really does look great.
Do you think you'd see yourself jumping to the Nikon Z system over the Sony systems, or do you if you were to switch from Nikon, or not switch from, but if you were to switch from DSLR, mirrored cameras to mirrorless, would you, do you have a preference there, or have you ever used the Z series?
I would definitely probably try and stay with Nikon. I think just because of the familiarity of just me growing up with Nikon. I mean, I'm familiar with the Sony systems enough, but I mean, if I don't have to just get a whole new set of lenses, that would also be great.
Yeah, no, right.
But I remember when I got the Sony A7R II, there was still a lot of growth for mirrorless to kind of improve on their features, and I know that they've come a long way, so I'm kind of excited to see what 2019, 2020 brings for mirrorless.
Well, since we're talking about gear, and we didn't really have a gear topic set up, but just really quick hit, Sharp is coming out with their 8K Micro Four Thirds camera system. They announced this at NAB, or at least they announced it before that, but they had an NAB, they had the actual working model. Because I saw that, I think it was Photokina or something that they announced it. It was just like a non-working prototype. But now it's like people are using it, they're creating content with it, you can download the files. Any thoughts on this? Any interest in the 8K revolution? Is this something you're gonna invest in? And also, Sharp as a photography company, filmmaking company. I mean, come on, get real.
Someone would have said that about Sony a little while ago.
Yeah, right. Or Panasonic. I mean, really, in terms of video, anyways. I know Panasonic, but and any interest in the 8K world or video at all?
Not for me.
Yeah.
I'm usually an early adopter on all technology, but I'm going to wait on this one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's neat, but again, workflow, hard drive space, processing
People are
power.
still even slow to get 4K and 4K
Right.
content. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
if they haven't
It's
jumped
very
on
niche.
that, then the commercial. If it's not if they haven't done the commercial world where people are actually have the way to view it and take advantage of it, then there's no point in actually shooting. There's still advantage of shooting 4K and scaling down and the stuff and the advantages for that. But I'm sure you can do that with 8K, but 4K covers it for now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using a laptop from 2013. It handles everything I need to do just fine.
You don't have 8K?
Don't have 8K, but I do have a nice Retina display MacBook Pro here, and it handles 4K. I can do 4K processing and video editing. Okay. It takes forever to render, but I can actually edit, mostly without too many skips in DaVinci. So I know if I plugged an 8K file into this thing, I would just see smoke coming from the internals. So I probably...
Don't forget the 3D, too. 3D kind of tanked,
yeah.
Everybody thought that was going to be the next. I mean,
So glad that's over.
who knows, but yeah. So
But
glad I don't have to sit on somebody's couch with glasses for the entire night.
Hated those.
But I say that now, but as soon as the GH6 comes out with 8K, I'm going to be like, well, plunk down, pre-order. Got to have it. Got to have me some 8K footage in my camera. I'll shoot it if I have it, but it's like it'll just sit in a hard drive until my computer catches up.
Oh, this looks great on the iPhone.
I know, right? Exactly. Or my 4K TV that I just bought. Anyways, Travis, what would you like to plug before we end tonight's show?
As always, follow up with us at our website or just directly on Facebook and ask us any follow-up questions or ideas that you might have for further episodes and stuff that you found interesting or that you'd like to have us copy or cover. And always check us out if you're a photographer. I'm chairman of APA, which is the American Photographic Artists of New York, and we're a national organization. So if you have any interest in what we do, please check us out or give me a direct line, and I'll let you know exactly what we do.
Awesome. And I'd like to do a special shout out to Justin Farisi, who's been in our chat, watching the show live and commenting. I appreciate that. You can always watch this show live at...
That's my boy right there.
Is your boy?
That is my boy. He assists me on a bunch of shoots. He's awesome. I met him years ago when I was out, when I really first started photographing and really had no grasp of anything. I was shooting abandoned places, and I remember shooting at the Hudson Valley Hospital, and it was just this incredibly mammoth structure of acres and acres of land. And I see this guy come around the corner. He's like, "Yo, man, did you see a GoPro any around here?" And that was like 8-9 years ago. And we became friends from there, and I've known him ever since. And he's just an awesome guy.
Well, that's great. That's great. Does he shoot Sony?
He does not. He's a Nikon shooter.
Oh.
Yeah. It's okay. It's all right. I forget.
You gotta correct that. But no, thanks for supporting Travis, Justin, appreciate it. And you can all watch the show live here at 9 p.m. Eastern every night. Although until July, we're going to switch over. More details to follow. But again, if you want to support us, support the show, go to Patreon and throw us some change. Like I say, go to aroundthelens.com. You can find the links to all the stuff. Support us, but at minimum, just kind of tell somebody about the show. If you don't support us,
spread the good word. Spread the good word.
If everybody here who watched the show told one person about the show, we double our audience, just like that.
I absolutely will, man. I'm going to be a regular listener from now on.
That's great.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate.
And I'll put you in touch if you ever, I'll definitely send you Sarah's contact info, and if you want to, interview her, or if there's anything else I can do for you guys, just let me know. It was a
pleasure. Now you have to let him know what it's like because he's now been a guest.
That's right. And, again, I mean, this is the perfect podcast to listen to. You're out there, you're shooting a disaster area like a hurricane, you throw the podcast on, it's just,
let's go live.
Our melodic voices in the background while you're documenting some destruction. They go hand in hand. Our show and destruction. I don't know why. They go hand in hand. They're perfect.
You can go live from your drone, right? You can go straight
Facebook.
Yeah.
I got the Ustream, right?
Just stay in New York and fly the drone down to Florida, then you don't leave.
Just give it a couple years. I'll probably be able to do that.
There you go. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking time out. Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate your time. Appreciate having you on. You're always welcome back. For Travis Keys, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 170, and we are out. Thanks for tuning into Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, go to aroundthelens.com for show notes from tonight's episode, as well as links to our Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. We're also always looking for new and exciting guests to feature on each show. So if you know somebody who might be interested, let them know.